Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Let's learn computer science.
Today's session is about client server and peer-to-peer network models. Syllabus reference explain client server and peer-to-peer models of networked computers. Under that, you should know roles of different computers within the network and subnetwork models, including both client server and peer-to-peer models. Benefits and drawbacks of each model, and justify use of a model for a given situation, right? So let's start. So network models, they are of two types, client server model and peer-to-peer, which is also known as P2P network model, right? So we'll start with client server model first. All right. So as you can see in client server model, one computer, you know, it can act as a server who serves others, who has something, some service that other computers uh, they ask for. So as a client, that computer will request for a service, and server as a will be a computer who will have that ability to serve that request. That can be about uh, file service. Maybe it is a file server and giving some files to other computers. Maybe it is a print server and print handling print requests of clients. So like that, right? So server computer will serve all the requests, and client computers, they'll request for different services. So server based network and specific client workstations. So there is a network where there is a server and other computers, which we call them as client workstations, they are connected to that server. So dedicated server provides an application for administration of all the client requests, right? So clients, they'll install that application, they'll utilize that application, and using that application, these days these applications are all web based, right? You open a web application and you give your request there. So uh, that is how client server model works. Now, what are various type of client server applications, or what kind of servers we have? So as I said earlier, maybe print servers are there, managing print jobs from client computers. There are file servers, so client accesses software and uses data files stored on the server, right? Then email servers, we also have proxy servers, right? We have database servers, we have domain controller servers. So domain controller servers, they manage user accounts, IDs and passwords, So client, they send login request to the server, which is processed, and then accordingly permissions are granted to the client servers, client systems. Now, in your syllabus also there is what is role of different computers within network and subnetwork. So if we talk about client server computer, so there are two types of computers which are there in this network model. One is client and other one is server computers. So when we talk about client, so client, they are end user devices which, and they request and utilize the services provided by the server, right? For example, these computers can be desktop computers, laptop computers, or even, tabs and smartphones. So these can act as a client computer. So basically, they'll be asking for different services depending upon what kind of service they need, whether it's print service, whether it's file service, database service, a proxy service they need. So accordingly, they'll be requesting the services, and server's computer, they'll be providing those services. Now, second type of computers in this network model are servers. So servers, they are host computers and they provide all the services. It can be data, it can be resources, whatever is requested by the clients, right? Depending upon what kind of server it is. It is a centralized system that manages and controls the network's resources. So all the clients, they will be connected with the server to get their job done. right? Then these are very high performance machines with specialized hardware and software configuration, because they have to handle so many requests. So there is specialized hardware and software which is required to become a server computer. Okay, so that is role of different computers within this network model, client and server. Now, what are the benefits? In your syllabus, it's also mentioned that you should be aware about benefits and drawbacks of each network model. So let's have a look at benefits of client server network model. So this is centralized management by the central server. So the server is wholly solely responsible for taking care of all the request, all the services which are being provided. So centralized management, right? That is one benefit. Scalability, can add or upgrade. You can add more services. You can upgrade your uh, existing services, and accordingly you can provide these to more clients. Specialized functionality, as we all know, these servers, uh, uh, they are there to provide specific services. So uh, that is how they are uh, specialized, and they have their specialized software and hardware. They are equipped with specialized hardware or software to accomplish all those jobs. Then is robustness. We also call it fault tolerant. So if one server fails, other servers, they can continue to serve clients without significant interruption. So it's not that there is only one computer, one server computer which is providing services. There can be multiple server computers, and clients can be connected to all those uh, server computers to get their service requests approved, right? Then if we look at drawbacks, single point of failure. In case uh, let's say client, they have to get the printing done, and print server is down, then clients, they lose access to all the resources, right? So if the server goes down, then there will be a problem. So that's there. Then cost, setting up and maintaining servers can be very expensive, as we have already learned up there, that specialized software and hardware is required, which is actually very, very costly. So yes, cost factor is there as a drawback. Network congestion. Now we all know that clients, they request for different services from the server. So when there are many clients, they are accessing the server simultaneously, then network congestion may occur, right? So these are drawbacks and benefits of client server network model. Now let's have a look at peer-to-peer network model. So you can see in the image, it looked like this, that all the peer computers, so each computer, they are known as a peer, right? They are connected to each other. In client server model, we saw that clients, they are connected to the server computer, right? And it's a two-way communication, that client is requesting the service and server is providing with the service. Now here, if we look at peer-to-peer, here all the computers, they are of equal status, right? Each computer in a peer-to-peer model, it can act as server or it can act as a client also, right? So all are of equal status. So this computer may have some service to give to other computers, so other computers can access that service from here, and maybe this computer requires something and it can ask that service from other computers. So each computer can act as a client as well as a server when it is a peer-to-peer network model, right? So let's have a look at length about peer-to-peer network model. So peer-to-peer network model, it is decentralized. No central server is there. Each computer can act as a server and client both, right? So decentralized network, where each connected computer stores data and operates independently as a pair, right? Can act both as client and server, as I have already explained. So peer-to-peer application, you need internet and ad hoc networks, right? Now, what is the role of different computers within the network and subnetwork? So you have seen that here all computers, they act as a pair, right? So all computers within the network are considered pairs, and they can act both as a client and a server, and have ability to request and provide resources or services, and is responsible for their own security. So if we talk about peer to peer, each computer, they are responsible for their security. They can give services, they can ask for services. In unlike client server network model, where clients, they were there just to ask for services, and servers are there just to provide services, and servers are wholly solely responsible for managing all the network, including security. So here each pair is responsible for their own security, and they can request and provide services. So everybody is of equal status here in peer-to-peer P2P network model. Okay, now let's have a look at benefits and drawbacks of peer-to-peer network model. Yeah. So first benefit, decentralization. Not there is no just one central computer who is solely responsible. Each computer is there of equal status. Scalability, you can add and delete nodes. More pairs can be added or deleted. Cost effectiveness, no specialized software or hardware is required. Any computer can become a pair in a peer-to-peer network model. Flexibility, pairs can join and leave network dynamically, right? Then drawbacks, security risks. Now, because no centralized system is there for security, each computer, they can have different security protocols being followed. So security is at risk when we talk about peer-to-peer network model. Quality of service may vary peer-to-peer. There is every computer, they have their own way of providing services. So quality of service may differ. Network overhead, more network traffic compared to client server models. Here, every computer, they have some services to provide. So many computers can at the same time ask for different services from different computers. So more network traffic is there. Management complexity without a dedicated server, right? Because there is no as such dedicated server is there. A normal computer is becoming a computer which is providing services to others. So management complexity is there. No central backup. Every computer is responsible for their own backup of data. Individual computers may respond slower. And in order to share file, individual pairs, they need to be switched on. Like, it is not a server computer that it will be turned on for all the time with a backup there. Rather, these are individual normal computers, so they need to be turned on in case anybody wants any service from those computers, right? If it is turned off, then that time service cannot be provided. So these are benefits and drawbacks of peer-to-peer P2P network model. Now, in your syllabus, it is also mentioned that justify use of each network model in the given scenario. Now, whatever scenario is given, you need to look at few pointers, and accordingly you will be suggesting whether client server model is there, or peer-to-peer model can be suggested. So client server model is suggested if large user base. If user base is really large, then we normally suggest client server model. And also access to network resources needs to be properly controlled. If there is requirement of proper control on other computers, so some computer needs to be there as a central computer, then we of course will suggest client server network model. Need for good network security. When security is an issue, you want to provide extra security, then always consider suggesting client server model. Data needs to be backed up. As we know, in client server, there is proper backup of data. So when data backup is needed, then suggest client server model. Now, peer-to-peer model is suggested if network of users is fairly small. So when there are less number of users, then you can suggest peer-to-peer model. And when there is no need for robust security, then also you can suggest peer-to-peer model. And of course, wherever they require workstation-based applications rather than being server-based, so you can suggest peer-to-peer network model in that case, right? Now, let's have a look at a few past paper questions. May, June 2021, 961811. So there is a question. Describe features of peer-to-peer network. Easy, we have just learned up there about peer-to-peer. So all computers within the network are considered peers and they are of equal status. Each pair acts both as client and server. Every computer they can request and provide services, and they are responsible for their own security. So we have just learned up there. So any 2 points out of these you can write and you'll get 2 marks because this is a 2-marker question, right? Next question is describe 2 drawbacks of using a peer-to-peer network, right? 2 drawbacks you have to suggest. So that also we have just covered. This question is of 4 marks. So you have to, this is of 4 marks, right? So you have to write 2 drawbacks and you have to state and you have to describe it properly, right? So security risks, and along with that you need to write why there are security risks. So you may write because every computer is responsible for their own security, so security risks are there. You can write any 2 points but with their proper description. Then quality of service may vary peer to pair, that also you can write and describe. Network overhead, and then you can write because there is more network traffic compared to client server models. Then management complexity without a dedicated server and no central backup. All these points you can write and describe, and you'll get 4 marks if you state and describe them properly, right? So that's all about network models. Now, under client server model, there is one more topic, thin versus thick clients, right? So I'll quickly take you through that also. Thin versus thick clients, right? Syllabus reference, show understanding of thin and thick client and the differences between them. So we'll quickly go through this. So clients under client server model can be of 2 types. It can be thin or can be thick clients. So firstly, we'll go through thin clients. So thin client, a client that only provides input and receives output from the application. Now, thin client, basically, it solely runs on the resources provided by the server. It has no local storage, right? All the processing is done by the server. So it is totally dependent on the server. Thin clients, they are totally dependent on the server for all the processing. So thin clients, they'll give the input to the computer, to the server. Server will do all the processing and they'll just receive the output. They have nothing to do. They have to just send a request, get the work done from the server, and then they'll get back the output. So these clients, they are solely dependent, totally dependent on the servers. So you can write they have no local storage and they don't need any storage because everything is to be done by server side. Then less purchase cost and demanding hardware is not required because they don't have to do anything on their own system. So they are less expensive and they don't need any specialized hardware. They require very few local resources, right? Just for their normal usage, they need SSD, RAM, memory, or computer, but they don't need it extra. Relies on a good, stable, and fast network. But because all the time they need a proper connection with the server, so they need a very good, fast network connection for their work to get done. Then data is stored on a remote server or computer. So that's about thin clients. So you need to remember that thin clients, basically, they don't do any processing on their own. They are totally dependent on the server computers. And to get connected with the server computer, they need a very good connection of internet. They only provide with the input, then all the work is done at the server side, and server then gives them back output, and then clients, they just receive that output. So that's all about thin clients. Now we have another topic, thick clients. So thick clients are thick clients, a client that carries out at least some of the processing itself. So thick clients, basically, they are clients. They do ask for the services from server side. However, they are not totally dependent on the server for all the services. They will do some kind of processing on their own. So let's have a look. An independent client that does not require the server to run. They don't need server to be, run all the time. Thick clients processes most of the application. They do most of the processing on their own. They can function even if no server is connected. So most of the time they can work offline, right? No lag related to network problems, more tolerant of a slow network because most of their work can be done offline. So they are not all the time require, they do not require a network connection all the time, right? So relies heavily on local resources. So they need strong local resources because most of their work is done on their own computer. They can store data on local resources such as HDD or SDD, right? So they are clients which can do some kind of processing on their own. Not all the processing is done on the server side. So these are thick clients. So thin versus thick, if they ask you differences, you can write all the differences from here, right? So that's all for today. Today we have learned about network models, including peer-to-peer and client-server model. And under client-server model, we have also learned about thick and thin clients. So that's all. Thank you.